Hey gang, it's Jay from JTech and welcome to the first JTech video of 2017. In this video I will be talking about a debate that's been going on in the world of gaming and has caught my interest at heart. Graphics versus gameplay, which one matters the most? This debate has become more relevant in this day and age with the increase in graphical processing and screen resolutions. While all this is truly amazing, is it worth creating a visually appealing game at the cost of a watered-down story that leaves a player bored and uninterested? Okay, so before I begin, I'd like to thank the people that provided footage in this content. I will leave links to their videos in the description down below. So first up, I'm going to begin with the graphical aspects of this debate. In the early days of gaming, graphics were never as heavily scrutinized as they are today. That is because at the time, video games were a show of the computing powers of the age. Games like Space Shooter and Tennis for Two were basic simulations of programs on mainframe computers in the 50s. Fast forward to the late 70s with games like Pong, graphics were very simple still, and people, especially young adults who wanted an escape from the real world, enjoyed the simplicity of Pong and its counterparts like Space Invaders. It isn't until the early to mid 80s that graphics began to be truly criticized, with atrocities like Chase the Wagon and the much maligned E.T., which I'll get to in a second. In the late 90s, however, the graphical power in consoles and PCs was truly taken to a whole nother level, with major companies claiming their machine was more superior than their competitors, with gimmicky phrases like blast processing and commercials describing people as sheep that couldn't do the math. Like seriously, the trolling in this time was off the charts. Only until the launch of Sony's PlayStation and later the Nintendo 64 did we go into the next generation of graphical advancements. Legendary games like Gran Turismo and GoldenEye to this very day inspire their respective genres. In the early to mid 2000s, we saw an advent in high-definition gaming with the launch of the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, giving us richer textures and much more defined objects and worlds. The current gen consoles have advanced the graphical power of console gaming with defined shadows and powerful engines, but admittedly, they have nothing on PCs, despite the latter having poorly optimized games and needing expensive parts to enjoy the true beauty of a video game graphically. With the advent of 4K, VR, and even 8K gaming, it's difficult to see where the next big graphical leap will be in gaming. Companies like Sony and Microsoft have released updates to their current generation consoles to emulate or even try to get some of the luster of their PC counterparts in terms of graphical power. But this has been heavily criticized by some casual gamers who simply want to enjoy a game for what it is without breaking the bank, which brings me to the next half of this debate, gameplay. Like I said earlier, video games were a simple test of computing powers of their time. Games were simple and were score-based and didn't have heavy storylines and long-lasting missions like we see today. It wasn't until legendary titles like Pitfall did we see gameplay become more in-depth. Unfortunately, the early 1980s also saw terrible games that ultimately led to the North American gaming crash. I will spend a little more time on E.T. as it is the poster boy of the crash. The movie was of course a box office success, and Atari got the exclusive rights for the game for the Atari 2600 console. Atari executives wanted the game made just in time for the 1982 holiday season, and the developers only had 6 weeks to write the game. And as you'd expect, the game was graphically horrid, which says a lot as this was the 1980s after all. The game was bland and basic and only touched on E.T. having to look for parts to phone home 4 or 2, whatever. I will do a separate video on the crash very soon, so expect me to get into more detail about the true cause and effects of this event. To blame E.T. alone is a crime, as games released in 1982 to 1983 were half-assed attempts by companies to cash in on the gaming craze. PC games thrived, and this era saw the dawn of text-based RPGs and sports games come to life as they offered greater story and much more adventure and depth to gaming. Console gaming in America and parts of Europe went in a lull until 1985, when a mustachioed plumber and his brother resurrected console gaming, and the rest, well, is history. Gameplay improved massively in the late 80s and early to mid 90s, with the release of classics like The Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy, Castlevania, and Contra, the former being heavily renowned for innovating the role-playing genre in gaming. Sony's release of the Tomb Raider series introduced adventure gaming on a whole new level, which you can still parallel to today's games like the Uncharted series and also the polished-up reboot of the Tomb Raider series as well. First-person shooters like Doom and GoldenEye 64 introduced features we take advantage of in modern-day icons like Call of Duty, Halo, and Battlefield. Gameplay has evolved to a greater extent in this day and age, but that does not mean the current generation is exempt from turds by renowned developers. Even 2016's most talked about video game No Man's Sky suffered nearly the same fate as E.T. did 3 decades ago. Although DLC and patch updates can still save the game, the damage may just have been done. And just like E.T., No Man's Sky was insanely hyped, yet as a whole, the game fell short of expectations massively and has led to investigations of false advertising. Okay, so we've looked at the history of both sides of the video gaming coin. Now let's look at how the two complement each other and conclude on which one ultimately matters the most. With gaming being the immersive experience it has become, graphics have pretty much been the essential ideal for modern day gamers. Like PC gaming, which is seen as the gold standard for high quality graphical advancements. Companies like AMD and Nvidia have introduced graphics cards capable of running games at crazy mad frame rates and resolutions. An example being Nvidia's GeForce GTX 1080 GPU, which is also VR ready. Virtual reality is another concept of gaming that has taken technology by storm over the last year and a half. I am yet to have a full VR experience, so I will not spend a lot of time on the topic. Sony, Oculus, and HTC have also caught the VR bug, including mobile technology, so graphical advancements in this niche are promising to say the least. In terms of modern day gameplay, stories in games have become more complex, more immersive, open, and diverse to the player's wildest imagination. Take gems like The Witcher 3 and the upcoming game Horizon Zero Dawn. Gameplay has been improving year on end, and correlating with stunning visuals, video games have never been this good, if not better than they've ever been before. Personally, I'm a big fan of RPGs and open world games. I'm into great storylines involving characters whose qualities are separate in each game I play. It's games like No Man's Sky, however, that make me question the motives of most game developers and publishers. This game has some of the best visuals a game could ever have, but most of the story and aspects of the game were missing from launch, no pun intended. In an era dominated by first-person shooters, very few games stand out in terms of striking the right balance between great graphics and gameplay. Titanfall 2 and Battlefield 1 were well received, while Call of Duty Infinite Warfare received mixed reviews, citing the reason that the game sold well was because of the Modern Warfare Remastered tie-in, and Zombies, which, to be honest, I still don't get as to why it's on Call of Duty games, but I digress. The current generation of gaming heavily thrives on striking a balance, and if one delivers more than the other, especially if it's graphics, expect the reception to be frosty and borderline overbaked. To wrap this up, I'll give my personal take on which one I think is more important to a great gaming experience. And as much as I love getting moved by the looks of most games, essentially it boils down to a video game delivering more in terms of gameplay. You do not need to fork out a lot of cash to enjoy a game for its visuals, and neither do the developers need to create stunning worlds with great scenery for a game to be truly great. Some of the best games of all time have not all been about realistic graphics or frame rates, but about engaging characters, stories, and scenarios. After all, video games were made so that everyone could have fun, and frankly, I love my fun, with a lot of story and action. So thank you guys for watching this video. Give me your opinion on what you think matters more in a game. I'd like to view your comments below. Shout out once again to the guys that provided the clips you've seen in this very video. Give them some love and subscribe to their channels. If you like this video and you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. Thanks again for watching. I'll talk to you guys next time.
Yeah. AB, tell him man. ETA, tell him man. My games, already know. My games, already know. You gotta stop it, cause that's my games. Why you gotta blame me?